This documentary is about food exceptionalism by the FDA of cloned animals. What is food exceptionalism? What does it mean? Agricultural exceptionalism is another term for it, refers to a socio-political climate in which national food security and farmers' economic interests prevail. Farmers receive special political treatment in the form of favorable policies and subsidies. Agricultural exceptionalism is a term current in the political science literature that holds that the farming industry is different from most economic sectors in modern societies, contributing to broader national interests and goals, and warranting extensive state intervention. So they do receive certain treatment that other industries do not. There's also exceptions to exceptionalism. It's not just with farmers and farming. Under federal law, with the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, that statute prohibits the sale of unregistered pesticides, requiring that manufacturers go through a regulatory approval process to obtain registration and then properly label their products pursuant to the EPA requirements. So the label is then governed with appropriate use and disposal. The EPA is to approve the registration of the pesticide and any claims on it, check the labeling, any materials, has to be complying with their requirements. The FIFRA registration is a product-specific license describing the terms and conditions under which the product can be legally distributed, sold, and used. So sometimes there are some exceptions to exceptionalism. These registered pesticides are subject to extensive labeling requirements. It can't be misbranded, and any directions for use and purpose has to be what it's intended for, to protect the environment. Should the use of agricultural exceptionalism be used to protect the agricultural industry? Is it fair that farmers are excluded from the same laws that are applied to other workers or industries? Are they getting any type of kickbacks and benefits for producing certain crops over others? This can possibly give them an advantage over other companies that produce products as well. For an example of a historical point of food exceptionalism, there's the case of Nix versus Hedden in 1893. Is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable? This was the main point of the case. Wording in any case is very important. So there was a lot of back and forth between the wording of if these tomatoes were a fruit or a vegetable in this case. There was a duty put on the port that was needed to be collected. And the case of whether the tomato was a fruit or a vegetable, within the meaning of the Tariff Act of 1883, was being discussed. And a witness testified to say that it was neither a vegetable nor a fruit that had any special meaning in trade or commerce, different than any other given word in the dictionary. So they went in the dictionary to see the definition, to see what could they classify this fruit or vegetable, to see if the duty was supposed to be paid or not. With this case, at the end, a decision was made by the Supreme Court of the United States that under U.S. Customs regulation, this tomato or those tomatoes should be classified as a vegetable rather than a fruit. The court's opinion held that the Tariff Act of 1883 used the ordinary meaning of the words fruit and vegetable instead of the technical botanical meaning. So it was definitely an argument in court, but this is a perfect example of food exceptionalism. Now let's talk about animal cloning and see how this relates. First, what is animal cloning? It's a complex process that lets one exact copy of the genetic or inherited traits of one animal to another. Livestock species that scientists have successfully cloned are cattle, swine, sheep, goats. Scientists have also cloned rats, mice, rabbits, cats, mules, horses, and dogs. Chicken and poultry have not been cloned yet. And this is the process of how they clone a lamb.
It's been 10 years since Dolly the sheep was first cloned in Scotland. Now, a decision that could eventually put the meat and milk from cloned animals or their offspring on grocery store shelves. In an FDA report to be released on Thursday, researchers write the meat and milk from clones and their progeny is as safe to eat as products from other animals.
Food exceptionalism in regards to animal cloning. This is how it ties together. In 2008, cloned animals were approved by the FDA for human consumption. Their main goal was meat, the milk. Their best animals were cloned from the farms. They were also non transgenic, which means that it's relating to an organism that contains genetic material into which DNA from an unrelated organism has been artificially introduced, which is the clone. The main the main point and issue making it food exceptionalism is that there's no label required on this meat. They consider it on the same level as regular meat, normal milk. To me, that's a perfect example of food exceptionalism because meat in the stores has a label. Meat that is cloned doesn't need anything specifying that it is from a cloned animal. It's not in stores yet. It's not certified organic by the USDA as well. But this is definitely on the rise and it's an issue behind the scenes. Um, you don't really see it as much yet, but it's definitely being pushed for, or a lot of people do not know because it's not on the label. The FDA is the main regulatory agency in charge of cloned food products. They're determining if the meat from cloned animals is safe, the offspring is safe. According to the FDA, it is, and that you should consider it a regular product and nothing different. They have not shown any type of negative effects of eating cloned meat, but to me, it's more an ethical mindset, and the fact that they are separating to some extent and giving an exception to cloned meat. Are there any pros and cons of cloning in general? Here's some pros, here's some cons. They're good for organ and tissue transplants. It does save endangered species, transgenic animals for human consumption. The cons, cloned animals have genetic defects, they have health problems, animals tend to die young. They don't all survive from doing the cloning. A lot of animal rights activists have an issue with that as well. Now, here's some pros and cons of animal cloning for agricultural reasons. Farmers say increased resistance, productivity, hardiness, and feed efficiency. You get better yields of meat, eggs, and milk. It also has improved animal health and diagnostic methods. Do you see a difference in the cloned meat, not cloned meat, and unknown? Which one would you want? The real question is now, should food exceptionalism in this industry be illegal? I feel that it should be. In some countries, animal cloning for food production does not happen. It is illegal. They have taken a standpoint on it. I feel that the FDA should change this law. A lot of people feel uneasy about it. They're giving their opinion on how they feel and that they approve the cloned meat. There's nothing wrong with it. And it doesn't seem like it's going to stop. I feel that even though the FDA approves cloned meat and has made their regulations public, that it's not going to put in the minds of all consumers that it is safe just because they're saying so. I feel that the law should be changed and a label should be put on the meat, letting customers know that it is cloned, and let the customer and consumers make their own choice, whether they want to consume that or they don't. The option needs to be made clear because some people do not read labels. They just grab what they know, put it in the shopping cart, and go home. They need to make that clear. And I feel like the FDA is hiding behind it a bit in the fact that they know that people would resist eating cloned meat if they knew it was on the label. So I think a change definitely has to be made with the labels and working with farming and agriculture and these regulations to make it into an effect where they are letting people know and make their own choice of whether to consume this meat that is deemed safe or not.